Welcome to Lead Different.
Reproductive rights. It's a phrase we hear often, but what if we've misunderstood it? What if, instead of empowering life, today's definition has actually led us away from it? In this episode, we're stepping into a conversation that challenges mainstream narratives around fertility, birth control, and reproductive technology. Not from a place of judgment, but from a deeper calling to protect the dignity of all human life, from conception until natural death. Today's guest is someone who's doing just that. 𝙤𝙤𝙪𝙧𝙪𝙧𝙀. She serves as the executive director of the Couple to Couple League, an organization dedicated to educating couples on the beauty and effectiveness of natural family planning. She's also the executive director of the Fertility Science Institute, where she bridges science and morality to promote fertility awareness that honors the design of our Creator. 𝙤𝙤's going to walk us through the often overlooked dangers of birth control, the moral dilemmas surrounding in vitro fertilization, and why Catholics and really all people of conscience need to think twice about technologies that create and destroy life in a single breath. This is not your typical episode. It's one that makes stretch you. It may even make you uncomfortable. But if you're open, it will also deepen your understanding of what it truly means to be pro-life in the fullest sense of the word. So wherever you're listening from today, I invite you to slow down, lean in, and join us for a conversation that redefines reproductive rights, not as the right to choose anything, but the right to choose what's good, true, and life-giving. Let's dive in.
Why not leadership? Why not lead different?
Welcome to Lead Different, the podcast that redefines leadership and challenges the status quo. Hosted by Daniel Dominguez, founder and CEO of Why Not Leadership. This show is your compass to becoming a better leader through the power of self-awareness. Good leaders foster teams that are engaged, empowered, and energized. Join us on this transformative journey as we equip you with the tools and insights to lead different. Get ready to challenge the ordinary and embrace self-aware leadership. This is Lead Different.
Subscribe now. Discover a new era of leadership. Lead different, because great leaders change the world.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Lead Different podcast this week. Today, our guest is 𝙤𝙤𝙪𝙧𝙪𝙧𝙀, who is the executive director of the Couple to Couple League, a global leader in natural family planning education, celebrating 50 years of service. She has a background in software engineering and marketing. 𝙤𝙤 is dedicated to empowering couples with scientifically grounded, faith-based fertility education that honors human dignity and life. Before stepping into her role as executive director in 2019, 𝙤𝙤 and her husband, Tom Zulanas, spent more than 2 decades volunteering with CCL, sharing their time, faith, and expertise to strengthen marriages and families around the world. Her work is deeply personal and mission-driven, rooted in a desire to support couples as they embrace both the beauty and responsibility of love and life. 𝙤𝙤's leadership style reflects her belief that technology and faith can work hand in hand to serve humanity. She continues to energize and enjoy and equip CCL's dedicated network of volunteers, ensuring that the League's message of love, life, and natural family planning remains vibrant for generations to come. So thank you so much for being on the show. Let's welcome 𝙤𝙤𝙪𝙧𝙪𝙧𝙀. Hello, 𝙤𝙤. How are you?
Hi, so nice to be with you.
It's nice to be here with you. This is such and for those of you who are listening, this is such a different topic because we're normally talking on the topic of leadership. But when it comes to leadership, I think leadership shows it in different ways. And sometimes leadership means doing something no one else would do. So when we're talking about the Lead Different podcast, you're doing something that's not the majority opinion. You've been involved in this ministry for a long time. And it's not something that, like I said, is going to be very popular with a lot of people, but yet it's growing. And then we were talking in the pre-show about some of the young people that you're working with whom this is really resonating. So I'm going to start with a question that just tells me, just give us a little background. What made you want to get involved in this part, in this ministry?
I think just a deep sense of gratitude. We were just, very, very blessed that we were trained by Couple League on natural family planning, and it's been such a blessing for our family and our lives that we just really felt like we should return the favor.
And you've been doing it now for how long, you and your husband?
We've actually just since a little after we were married, so a couple decades, like you said. So we're baby volunteers in our organization because people that are working with us just stay for many, many years.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about what's different. There's, we as I learn more and more about natural family planning, there's, and you watch podcasts and you listen and you read, the science is there. One of the things we talked about, so one that I want to take you in a lot of different places, but tell us about what makes so much sense for you that you said this is something I want to do. Well, you became an executive director, and now you're working full time in this capacity. What brought you there?
Well, I think my background is very science based. I have a degree in electrical engineering, and so for me, it was kind of funny. They taught us the couple league taught us symptothermal method, which is involving graphing your temperatures. And I was like, oh, graphs, I can do this. So for me, that was very attractive. It was, faith and reason. It was showing me how to use science to interpret what was going on with my fertility, which was great.
So yeah, I love that. So the initial attraction, because you are an engineer, software engineer, and you have a background in marketing also. But the science made sense, and you brought something up that's really important: faith and reason. Our daughter goes to a classical high school, and she went to a classical elementary school. And one of the things we talk so much about is that faith and reason are not opposite; they actually can coexist. And scientists actually are some of the greatest scientists were people of faith. So that's an attraction to you. So is how much of the time do you spend on the science of it as you teach, and how much of it is on the faith side of the house?
I'm guessing, if you're talking about our classes in
Yeah.
specific, we spend about, I think, probably I think a third of the time on theology, because you have to
Yeah.
know, as you would say, the reason why you're doing this. And we spend about a third of the time on understanding the scientific background and kind of the principles involved, and probably a third of the time on just practical how to do things and how to practice the method and how to understand your charts about yourself and so forth.
So tell us a little bit, if you don't mind. You said it was a blessing for you and your husband. How many kids do you have? Tell us a little bit about how it impacted you personally, being able to use natural family planning.
Sure. We're blessed with two boys, and it just was a very wonderful holistic lifestyle. That what we realized was that in order to use it, you want to keep your cycle healthy. In order to keep your cycle healthy, you want to have good nutrition. Fortunately, Couple League has a book that's very well documented, and so they have a lot of resources for us. And so we were able to have really healthy lifestyle for our whole family. So I want to say you get on the right path and you keep going in the right direction, and that's always been a blessing for us, and for so many families. I think um, we talk about this one subject, but actually, when you put it in the scope of marriages, it helps with communication. It helps, it's funny, like nutrition, and things like that, and it really is part of a whole lifestyle that creates human flourishing. That we see flourishing families, and for us, it was fabulous. And I think for us, we've come to realize that a lot of people struggle with, how do we make decisions about our family sides?
Right.
How should we figure that out? But the great blessing of natural family planning is that you are acknowledging our Lord as the creator of the universe, and you're committing yourself to the great gift of being co-creator with him. And so it brings great peace. So you don't have to feel like it's all on you all the time and you have to make all these decisions by yourself. You do the best you can with faith and reason to look and see what's going on in your life, but it gives you a great sense of peace in your family. So these are all the very beautiful things that have been part of our life, and that we're just determined to share that gift with other people.
It's interesting because I remember growing up. So I'm going to take you back a little bit. So I was in high school in the late '80s, in college in the early '90s. It seemed like that I remember this being a trend. Parents of girls were told, "Oh, your daughter's having painful periods," and so the solution was to put her on the pill. But I remember how that backfired, because it almost, I wasn't blessed like my wife to go to a Catholic school. So I was at a public school where things were a little bit more loose, and now girls were protected, and they felt it was almost like a green light to become sexually active, and all the issues that come with that. So there's a couple of things that I definitely want to talk about. Number one is, you talk about the lifestyle. It's a healthier lifestyle because you're
Mhm.
talking about nutrition.
Right.
You talk about letting your body naturally have its cycles, and there's fertile periods and infertile periods and that stuff. Tell us what are some of the common myths that people have been led to believe, and how do you overcome those so that people can be healthy? So what would you say to a parent who comes to you and says, "Hey, I'm thinking of putting my 15-year-old on the pill because she's having painful menstrual cramps," or whatever the issues are? You probably are more familiar with them. And how do you overcome that through some natural methods?
Well, there's a lot there. So I would say if someone came to me, I would share that we have great resources. We have a great class for mother daughter and young adult. This is gives us an opportunity to give a little more fulsome and um, give some resources for what you were talking about with the scientific background. So we're not just saying something, but we're actually giving you really good training. So we do have those things available. We actually have a book about nutrition that's called Shorter, Later, Pain-Free Periods, that we provide for young ladies so that they have an option for handling those cycle issues. In general, doctors will tell you, who are informed on reproductive care, is that the pill is really in general a band-aid. It's a medicine looking for a problem that doesn't exist. We're interfering with the natural function when we're giving birth control pills. So that's dangerous, I think. There's been lots of terrible side effects that have been prescribed to it. And so that's a cause for concern. And every parent, every woman, every couple should be concerned about those issues. As far as young ladies, looking for better information, we're very happy to say we have Fertility Science Institute, which has a directory of great medical professionals that you can find somebody in your area. We partner with Fem Health and My Catholic Doctor, and that's such a blessing because you can actually talk to people that have knowledge and are able to help you, and not just saying, "Oh, have acne, just take the pill." And it's really is a real and present danger, more so now than it has been actually in the past, I would say. One of the things that we're concerned about is the apps. Unfortunately, right now, the apps, a lot of them are secular based. We have one that's Catholic, so Peak Day app is fabulous. And it integrates with all the devices, so it's very up to date. But one of the things those apps do is some of them have off ramps to Planned Parenthood, to abortion pills, and all sorts of things that I don't think that maybe moms are and dads are aware that women are just young women are just signing up for these, and it sounds really not that big of a deal. I'm just going to do a period tracking app and this will be great. And, then you end up in this situation where you have all these influences that are very personal because they're on your phone, and it's very private. And I'm not sure people are aware that, that's kind of something that we should be really aware of and take action to stand against.
Yeah. So a lot there. So thank you. You mentioned, as you went through, I know the traditional comments that we get from people, right? If you're using natural family planning and you're a Catholic, you're going to show up with 9 kids in a Sprinter van. And I love that you are actually an example of a smaller family, 2 boys, and not that there's anything wrong with that. I think the difference is being open to life, right? And
Correct.
being, and it's not a bad thing if a third or a fourth bonus child comes into the picture. So I love that aspect of it. I think it's important to be open to life for people who are of faith and want to be in line with the teachings of the church. I think it makes a lot of sense, in order to as we said, being open to life always, but it's also healthier. The other thing that I want to make sure we talk about is there's the opposite side of this, Katie, that you probably deal with, and that those are couples who are struggling to get pregnant, right?
Correct.
I've heard the stats, and I'd love to hear from you because you probably know them better. That natural family planning actually has a much better conception or attempt to conception rate than that does what most people hear about, and that is using artificial insemination methods. So, can you talk a little bit about that, and what the science is behind it for those that want to hear what the science is behind being natural and doing it using tracking methods in terms of conception versus in vitro fertilization and that type of thing?
Sure. It's a fascinating topic. And like you're saying, what we're finding is there's been a documented 50% decrease in male fertility over the past few decades. That's alarming. More and more couples, are experiencing trouble with fertility. That's close to our heart, and that we'd love, to give help. And we're happy to say using charting is the first step toward restorative reproductive health. Restorative reproductive health costs less. It's safer for yourself and the future baby, and it's also more effective than IVF. So we are happy and proud to be part of the movement to, you know, try to restore and give women access to their health uh, in the best way possible and with hopefully the best outcome possible. But it's amazing just by simple charting how many people, how much of a help that is to getting pregnant. And of course, we're very concerned. I think I just read the other day that the number of children that were uh, killed with IVF is now exceeds the number that have been killed through abortion. So that's very alarming, and that's nothing small to consider when you're looking at all these questions.
Yeah, because so that's a fundamental belief that as Catholics we have that life begins at conception, right? So fertilized egg is a baby.
Mhm.
And so in vitro fertilization, correct me if I'm wrong, involves the fertilizing of multiple eggs
Correct.
and then the destruction of the extras, right? And so
Unfortunately, or they're frozen, which again is questionable. Then, right?
right, so then you've got a conceived person in limbo, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Technically. So that's when you say that the number of babies destroyed through in vitro has now surpassed number of babies that have been destroyed through abortion. And again, that leads to these are people who want to have babies, because when people I've heard this argument, and again, talk about a great topic for leading different. I appreciate that you're diving into this with me, Katie, because I want to talk about it because it's important. um you know These are people who want to have babies. And so when politicians or policies are made that want to limit in vitro fertilization, the people creating those policies are seen as, oh, you monsters, you don't want to allow people who want to bring babies into the world to have babies. I think what we're saying, and what the people that are bringing those policies are saying, is there's a way for you to do that without doing this method. And what are the benefits of it? What are the why do that when you can do this? What's the biggest thing that's keeping people from saying, hey, I'm going to try natural family planning? There's a detox period, I think, that has to happen if a person has been on the pill, right, before they can get
Mhm.
into a regular cycle, so they can monitor and be fertile. Can you talk a little bit about that? What are some of those major benefits of not doing it that way versus doing it with the natural family planning method?
Sure. And this is something that should be researched. I encourage people to research it, but basically, and it makes sense just without research, just to know that, um, taking good care of your body, promoting its healthy functioning is definitely always going to win out and be, you know, the the way you should do it. It's cheaper. It's much, as you're saying, much healthier for all the individual and the future child. And so, adding artificial hormones can be very tricky, is what I want to say. And so, there's nothing. I'm not saying that I'm categorically against medical intervention. That's incorrect. That's wrong. But creating life artificially, um, it just isn't as simple or as good as working with our own system to make that happen. And so, the benefits are it's going to be healthier. It's going to be less costly. It's going to have less long-term health effects for you and potentially for any child created. So those are all things that you want to consider. Um, in addition to, as you point out, the moral aspects of creating multiple eternal souls that are there. And I think at the end of the day, when we're talking about this topic, um, your leadership talks about the reason why, and I think that becomes really central when I talk to groups of people about this. And it comes down to a realization, countercultural, different than what but sex leads to babies. Like when you're having sex, it leads to babies, and you need to acknowledge that. We have a great OBGYN on our board, and he tells us that, statistically, and they're very scientific in our board, but says that of the 100% of the women that get pregnant, 50% of them are not planning on getting pregnant. And of that 50%, another 50% are on birth control or using birth control. So that means really in real life, 25% of people on birth control not planning to get pregnant are getting pregnant. And that means that we have to recognize that this when you're participating in sex, that's creating eternal souls. So that's a very serious matter. Yeah, and you want to think about that. You want to recognize that, and you want to understand that when people are pharmaceuticals are selling birth control, so to speak, then really the premise is that life is an error. It's something to get past. It's a mistake, and so forth. But when you look at how many people are on birth control that do get pregnant, um, you have to step back and say, what's my understanding? When you're learning natural family planning, the premise is that God's in control, and God's the author of life. And so although we can, recognize and work with him to, understand our fertile and infertile times, that still seeds life to the Lord, right? So if he
Right.
sees fit to create life, or in the case of when you're struggling with fertility, not have you become pregnant,
Right.
those decisions are still with the Lord. And ordering your life in that fashion is more peaceful, ultimately, because so what happens is people are put in this position of they're supposed to make that decision. They're supposed to be responsible. Women have, when I grew up, women are supposed to be responsible. They're supposed to be take care of themselves and use birth control and be responsible. And that just puts all of the life and death decision making on you. And what you realize as you go along is that that's not going to work. You're not God. And so that, unfortunately, that leads us to despair. Society creates this thing and tells us we can be in charge. We can't. And so I think when we're working, teaching our couples natural family planning, we're coming face to face with that underlying why, an underlying problem that society is presenting, that we're in charge. We're not. And so it's another opportunity for us to acknowledge that we're not in charge. And then when you do acknowledge that, things start making more sense in your life.
And I think as I hear you speak, I think there's a second component to it that makes a lot of sense for me. So we did Katie's YOS, and so I'm going to bring this up real quick for those of you, the coaches in the audience, and the people who have been through the YOS discovery. One of the things that I like talking about is how that kind of guides who you are. So your results came back as a contribute, better way, and trust. So what we know about somebody like Katie is she's someone who wants to make a difference. And if you're hearing her tone, I mean, this is someone who really is involved in something that's really built, excuse me, to make a positive impact in the lives of others. Excuse me, which is what we know about people with the why of contribute. Her how is better way. So again, once again, as I hear her speak, she's telling us about a better way to, number one, organize and plan your family, but also a better way to live in faith and in order. That's also natural. It's not just whether you're a Christian and a Catholic. It's whether or not you believe in the way we were naturally designed, right? So there's that natural argument, and your what is trust. So I also know, even as we talked in the pre-show, Katie, it's important for you to give us good information and to look at both sides. And I something that you're very, very good to bring up, because when we get into this conversation, it can be very easy to be seen as judgmental and not understanding that there are other positions, and there are people that have been educated inaccurately over the years for a long time, and they may not have the information that you and I have. And so that's the purpose of this episode. I really want to share this good information that's out there, opposite of what the mainstream media or what the national media or what is popular culture will tell us. Yes, go if it feels good, do it. I think you brought up a really good point. When you engage in sex, you're engaging in a procreative act, and the natural consequence, and it's not even a consequence, the natural occurrence that happens from a procreative act is procreation. Children come from that, and they're created in their eternal souls, and we're responsible for that as the people creating those souls. So it's a really important way to look at it. Now, one thing that's encouraging that you talked about, and you and your husband work with the new generation Gen Z couples. I have been so impressed, Katie. I've been interviewing. For some reason, in my coaching, I tend to attract that younger age group, but they are so amazing in terms of they're coming back there to the faith, and in much greater numbers than people in our age groups, and they're willing and able to accept the teachings and are doing those things that lead to procreation and getting back to nature and the natural way we were designed. So I said a lot there. Here's the question. For someone who is not a person of faith, but that wants to do what's right for themselves, what are some of the arguments just for the natural reasons for doing this? Like you said earlier, we're naturally designed to do this. and this is the best way for those people who are saying, hey, you know what, I'm not a Catholic, but I actually want to take better care of my body. I want my husband and I to do what's natural, and we want to have a healthy family. Talk a little bit about that.
Sure. This has been a cornerstone of our life. It's been really wonderful. We have a great book, Fertility Cycles Nutrition, which is was green. We were all green before green was popular. We have Save Freddy the Frog is one of our fun campaigns that we do because unfortunately it's a play on the study in Boulder, Colorado, where they found that the estrogens and the progesterones that were being are in the sewer water from all the birth control pills, where the poor little frogs were having trouble having any sort of development of their sexual organs. So they would have no gender. And it's terrible. So it really makes you stop and think about the environmental impact that birth control is having. And it makes you wonder if anybody's caring, are they monitoring, or they're not filtering it, and so forth. So these are important topics that affect the next generation, our lives, our health. So that's a kind of a macro argument. The micro argument would be in our daily lives, just being able to look at, it's amazing. You can look at our charts and you can find healthy patterns for our charts, which is healthy for our whole life, right? So it's a fifth sign of health. Fifth vital sign, I guess, is what they call it when you have a healthy chart. Unfortunately, what we're finding is with the Make America Healthy Again theme, talking about how overprocessed foods and additives are creating problems, we are actually witnessing that in women's charts. They actually aren't as healthy as they used to be. We do have nutritional exercises nutrition and exercise, I guess, to help with that, which is great. But I think we've been taken aback a little bit by witnessing how poor diet can really has even more effect than it used to in the past. So there's a lot there. We have learnnfp.org. We have classes. We have app. We have a lot of really wonderful things that can help every age group. And it's nice because it lasts through your whole life. People talk about this, but it's not. It actually is mother-daughter to perimenopause. Your fertility is a gift that should be protected for a lifetime. And so, our programs are designed to do that and help you.
I love what you said. You were green before green was cool, because this stuff is about, you mentioned earlier the statistics on the male fertility issues and how much it has increased. A lot of that can be attributed to the birth control in the water, right? And it's not only infecting amphibians that live, little frogs that live in those spaces, but I think we're ingesting that. There's there's a lot of those chemicals that are coming back and are being we're drinking it. We're eating more processed foods. What are some of the reasons that you've seen for the decreased fertility in males?
Well, I don't think that that's really been well studied, Dan. Like, honestly, it's very alarming. And we do have at Save Freddy the Frog, I think, .org, we have like a page with 21 studies that talk about this particular issue, because it is important. But as far as finding the exact cause, they really haven't studied. I don't know if you've really even heard of that in the news so much. I happen to know about it because I work in this kind of industry, but I don't think generally it's known. But I think that all of us, regardless, just sensibly can look at the processed foods. I can look at charts that aren't as healthy as they used to be. I can look at all sorts of things, and just all of us can recognize that we're going in the wrong direction. Obesity and all sorts of things are off the charts. We want to take good care of ourselves, our future children. So we want to make sure. So my husband we teach couple to couple, right? So we include men. So it's a shared fertility. So we always include men. It's a great it's great because women don't feel like everything's on them, which is super. But my husband, of course, is always joking with the guys, walnuts, eat more walnuts. And that's true. There are some really good studies that have been coming out simply because there's more interest about turmeric and ginger and different things that guys can do to protect and enhance their fertility because it has become such an issue.
So that's great that you brought that up. Let's make sure we give you an opportunity to talk about couple to couple league. What does it mean? Is it if somebody gets involved in couple to couple, what is it that's the main selling point? What are people going to get from being either involved on the counselor side or on the couples that are coming for help at couple to couple league?
Sure. So we're a nonprofit. So we have taught 500,000 people national family planning. And so we're happy to have people join us who would like to help out. We're going to be celebrating our 55th year in the coming year, and we're setting up a leaderboard. So we're determined to just teach as many people as possible. We have all sorts of different classes for different groups of people, and we're happy to have you join us if you're interested. We have everything from, like I said, mother-daughter, an intro class, the method class, the postpartum, perimenopause. So, as I was saying, we teach couple to couple. So we're actually inspired from paragraph 26 of *Humanae Vitae, which the Saint Pope Paul asked us to teach couple to couple, which is what we do. And from that, we've developed the Fertility Science Institute. And Fertility Science Institute is a great resource. And it's also more, I guess, I want to say evangelical for us. It's not as focused around the Catholic teaching, but following Catholic teaching in the sense of respect for ourselves, our body, our dignity, and so forth. So it follows all the theology of the body information just as respect, but it doesn't focus in on the theology. You can always find that, but it does allow us to talk to people that aren't brought up in the faith and maybe don't approach it from that perspective.
Yeah, as I look, as I was looking at the webpage for the Fertility Science Institute, you specifically support scientifically based, all natural fertility awareness based methods of family planning. And then you also do not support the action which intentionally damages or frustrates the normal function of a healthy reproductive or other functioning part of the body. So that part, as you said, it's science based, right?
Mhm.
It is
Correct.
how the body is supposed to function. I heard this somewhere, and Katie, I'm sure you've heard it. We have lots of systems in our body, right? We have our digestive system, we have our pulmonary, our the way that we breathe, we have our nervous system. The reproductive system is the only one that we have that does not work without another person, right? All of our internal systems work individually, and they're made to keep us alive. The reproductive system does not work unless you reproduce, and you only can do that with a person of the opposite gender that can help you create life. That's the whole purpose of it. That is so, that for me, it caught me. It really stuck with me. It's like, wow, talk about that is just nature. God designed us this way, and He gave you a system that you must find a couple, a person of the opposite sex, in order to make it work.
Right. I think that was a big breakthrough for people was they have for many, many years talked about it as the menstrual cycle. And we don't talk about it like the menstrual, we talk about it as a fertility cycle. So the
Mm.
point of the cycle is ovulation, which is the point of it is fertility. So that sheds a whole new light on it instead of being a problem of menstruation is such an inconvenience and a problem. Now
Right.
instead we're focused on healthy cycles because the point to protect our fertility, protect our future children, take good care of ourselves, protect our health, and make sure that we do the best we can. Like you said, we're wonderfully and beautifully made, and so we are always, helping people with that.
I really do appreciate you talking about that. Katie, we've answered some great questions. I could go on, and I'm gonna have to have you back on. But this is the Lead Different podcast, and we want to talk about leadership a little bit. What does it mean to you to lead different?
Well, my goodness, very few people have a vocation that they have to teach about sex. I mean, it's just odd, right? But yeah, so it's kind of, I always have a laugh about that. You start off, studying engineering and you're, climbing the corporate ladder and you're doing these things. And then here I am. But it's been great. This is a field that is supported with technology, which is
Right.
wonderful. And so very happy to use my skills to make sure that people have the access to the very best of technology.
Technology and information. So we will make sure and put in the show notes a link to the Fertility Science Institute for the Couple to Couple League. The other question we always ask every guest is, what is your biggest why not moment? A time in your life when you said why not to something and you're so glad you did.
Oh, I think probably taking over as executive director here was probably a big why not moment. I had been on the board, and this opportunity came up, and I thought, why not? Let's see what I can do.
Fabulous. We like to say at the end of our life, we don't regret the things we did. We regret the things we didn't do. So you said, why not? You're doing it. You're doing a fabulous job. You're a great representative of the cause and of your organization. And so like I said, I'm glad we got to hear some of the science and some of what you guys teach. And please, if you're interested, please click on the links. Katie, what's the best way to get a hold of you if somebody wanted to have you on a podcast or learn more, or even, I don't know if you do speaking and that kind of thing. What's the best way to get a hold of Katie?
Sure. We have media pages on our website, Couple to Couple and Fertility Science Institute. So that would probably be the fastest way. It has all our information on it, and the contact form, or just call our office.
Fantastic. Fantastic. So we'll make sure and do that. Katie, as you've taken over, as you're now an executive director and a leader in your company, what's a way that you lead? And let's talk about leadership here. That you lead differently today than you maybe did 5 years ago. What's different about you?
Oh, I think for me, it's been a privilege to work with people that are also mission driven. That's a little different than other, secular jobs I've held. Um, we actually stop our stand-up meeting every day. Is we work remotely. We do have an office where people work locally, but we also work remotely, and we work with people all over the world. And our stand-up is the Angelus at noon, and we pray for each other. So we say who needs what. Everyone's expected to be there. It's accountability, and so forth. So um, it's really been an honor to work with people and to watch that grow, and that ability to care for each other, even long distance.
Mhm.
Um, it's been a great blessing for us. We are very number driven, so we all have dashboards that we do, and we review with each other once a month with our leadership. So that's been a big help too.
Yeah. Tell us. Yeah, no, and that I love that you do the Angelus. My office is at the Newman Center at the University of New Mexico. So we do the Angelus in the morning as a family, and before we leave for school, before everybody goes in different directions. But at noon we get to do that here. We have discerners who are living in the Newman Center, so we get a chance to do that with them, and then do it as a family in the evening. So we do the 6-12-6. But I love that you do that as part of your business, and that's fantastic. That is definitely different, and but it fits the cause that you support, right?
Right.
What about a moment? Let's talk one more leadership question. A moment where you felt your leadership was tested and it changed you. What's been that moment for you?
I think for me, probably, I think COVID was one.
Hmm.
I think another one has been personnel issues. Personal issues in a Catholic nonprofit is
Yeah.
challenging, and I think that I've learned that you just really, you have to pray, but you have to be truthful with people. And I've learned that, people have their own plan for their life, and you have to be open to be part of that. And it's not, it's important that you're part of that by being honest. It's important that you're part of it by, giving them the best of your leadership skills that you can manage.
Yeah, no, that is such a good lesson. I learned that leading teams at sales teams, sometimes people are better off not staying with us in our organization. Sometimes that is the best thing for both of us. And I can't tell you how many times, and I'm sure you've seen it, that person that you had a very tough conversation with is thriving somewhere else, and they needed to go, or they started their own business and they're doing fantastic. And so it's I think it goes back to what you said earlier, understanding that it's God's plan. Right. And your job is just to execute on it. And sometimes you've got to be the bad person, and you feel like the bad person at the time, but you don't realize what doors you're opening or allowing that person to step through in going into the future. So I love that you brought it back to that. And that is probably tough for anybody in leadership. The personnel issues, that a lot of my coaching time is spent with executives on dealing exactly with some of those types of decisions and helping make the right decision that feels good, but that's also good for the business.
Correct.
So, Katie, you have been a fantastic guest. We've learned a lot. This is not a topic we normally cover on the Lead Different podcast, but I'm so glad we met through Scent Ventures. And that we had an opportunity to get to know each other. I know we were scheduled for an interview maybe a month ago, but we ended up having a great conversation and saying, hey, you know what, let's continue this conversation and then let's do the interview at another time. And so I'm glad we did that, Katie. It has been a pleasure to spend some time with you. Lead Different podcast listeners, thank you so much for listening. This is a different kind of topic that but we're committed to bringing you different topics and not shying away from things that might be different from the norm and that other leadership coaches are talking about in order to bring you great information. And Katie, thank you so much for being on the show. Guys, thank you so much for listening to the Lead Different podcast. Don't forget to follow us. Don't forget to hit the like button. And if you learned something today and you want to comment, please send us your comments. And if you have any questions, please put them in the comments. We'll make sure and get them to Katie. And if we can't answer them, we'll make sure she can answer them and we'll get you an answer. And if we need to have her back, we certainly will. Katie, thank you so much for being on the Lead Different podcast.
This is Lead Different.
Subscribe now. Discover a new era of leadership. Lead different, because great leaders change the world.